Being, an ally or aligning with Indigenous people is kind of realizing the disaster of colonization on our communities. Thinking about the toll that colonization has taken on the kind of human element. So there are all these kind of social and human failures and sicknesses that exist in our community that a lot of people are grappling with right now. And I know Karina talked about, alcoholism, sexual abuse, stuff like that. Those things are present in our community as well, and I think a lot of people who've devoted their time towards doing direct actions and building this culture of resistance are looking at that now and saying, do we need to have we given enough attention to this? Have we actually focused on these things enough? Because by the time you get somebody and they're in their late teens, they've been through this process of colonization and destruction in their families, and they don't have the confidence or even the wherewithal as a person to make a stand. And so when we look at that, a lot of people are now shifting their attention back and saying, let's do more support work for younger people. Let's do more leadership development. Let's try to build networks in our communities that kind of help those people when they're very young. And that means not just young people, but also including their families in that. So that's another trend that exists in Indian country. As an ally, what can you do? Again, learn the political culture of that community that you might be working with. Because there are institutions, there are ways of doing things, there are protocols that exist in those communities that you should know about before you go there. I don't mean doing a cursory Wikipedia check, right? Don't just read something real quick. I mean sit down and do some real research about who the players are, what institutions exist, what is the spirituality of that place. Are you going to be doing something that offends somebody? Was there a recent was somebody recently in prison? Is there a lot of chaos in that community, or is there something that you should not do as an ally? Do your research before you go into those communities and offer your support. Come correct. If you're going to share a skill, if you're asked to come to a community and do a skill set share, go ahead and do the skill set share, but don't assume that you're a leader, right? So a lot of times people will come into a community and share something, and then they'll take a leadership position just because they share a particular skill. As an ally, know your place when you do that. Just come, share what you're going to share your information, share the history of whatever you have to do because you were invited, but don't assume that because you have that role that you are in a position of superiority there. Another thing is kind of check your prism at the door. When you come into a community, you may be operating from a certain ideological perspective, which is necessary to deconstruct, say, capitalism or challenge the state. But that may not necessarily jive with what you see in that community. So give it time. Do not jump to conclusions because of certain interrelations that exist in those communities, certain dynamics that exist in those communities. Kind of accept them for what they are and examine them for a while before you make a judgment. So many times I've heard people come into communities and automatically say, well, there's a hierarchy here, there's a hierarchy here, or something like that. And that hierarchy may exist because it's necessary for a moment in history. You may need, for example, to elevate certain people, certain actions, certain risks, to make sure that people actually follow through on that thing. And they may be temporary. So don't form permanent judgments about those communities based on your prism. Be accountable. Be accountable to the people of that community. Don't come in, stir up a bunch of stuff and split and expect people to pick up the pieces afterwards. Make sure that you stay there and you suffer the consequences, if there are consequences to be suffered in that community. And finally, I would say just look in your backyard, right? Look in your backyard. So many times we have gatherings like this about justice, about organizing, about action, and the places that we're talking about are somewhere overseas. They're in a different state. They're in a different country. We heard from many people who live here. We heard about the issues that exist here in California. Look in your backyard, take care of that, and you'll be a good ally. So, thank you.